Let's go. What's going on, guys? It is time for another Friday Night Live. Woo, I almost missed this one. I got caught up in a rabbit hole called Call of Duty. I was watching a couple of my favorite streamers playing Call of Duty. Didn't realize it was that time. So anyway, welcome to Friday Night Live. And dude, welcome to everybody who follows me and who subscribed to my channel and everything else. Welcome to everybody who is joining me on my podcast. Thanks for listening. This recording ends up on my podcast shortly after we're done today, and you guys can listen to it whenever you want to, which is pretty cool. Christopher Cook, haven't seen you in a while. How you doing, man? So, a few things, real quick business. We do the giveaway every month. We do, it's called Stuck on Fluke. You go to my website. This is a chance for you to win a fishing trip with me. Basically what it is. You go to my website, you buy a sticker, $5 sticker, stick it on something, put it on Instagram and tag me, and also hashtag Stuck on Fluke. And at the end of each month, I pick a winner. And in the spring, I will pick from those winners. I'll pick somebody that I'll go take fishing. So basically, I'm gonna show up at your door, knock on it. We're gonna go fishing. So how much fun is that? Anyway, oh goodness. Trying to think of what's going on. What else going on? Like I said in the description of the video, fishing's been tough this week. My lakes here, they've been turning over, which means that the upper part of the water just got colder than the lower part of the water, or the deep water of the water, and it just flipped over. So all that nasty, junky water that's down at the bottom that has no oxygen just made it to the top, and the bass suspended. And hopefully by tomorrow or maybe Sunday, and I don't fish on Sundays, but they'll be back to normal and move up shallow. It's a good thing and a bad thing. It's bad for a few days. And typically a bigger lake won't turn over all at the same time, but these lakes do most of the time. They usually turn over all at the same time, and the fishing just sucks. And I shouldn't even have spent wasted my time out there. So I mowed the lawn today. Anyway, whew. All right, let's get some hellos in the deal. Let me look through the chat. Guadalupe Vasquez, what's going on, man? Chipo, how you doing? Matthew Lorray, from Arizona. That's awesome. Tim Beers, my brother, how are you? Tyler Bettinger, hey, what do you believe the typical time frame for most lakes to turn over is? Just all depends on their temperature, dude. It's hard to say. Big lakes, they start off turning over in like certain areas, and you can just move to other parts of the lake and usually find places that haven't turned over, or places that have already turned over. So you can typically do that. Small lakes, just come back in about 2 or 3 days and they'll be a little bit better. So, and it usually doesn't happen this early either. It usually happens in like November. But here, I don't know. It's been real weird this year on these lakes anyway. Atlanta Clutch, what's going on? Johnny Rojas, about something about 1,000 turtles. It just disappeared on me. Man. Let's see. Viz Styles. Kevin Woods, what's going on, man? He says, I love the veterans donations it just disappeared on me. Makes for the American Hero line. They are hard to find since they are so inexpensive. Yes, I imagine they are. Damien says you need to get out here and suffer with me. Damien fishes the same lakes I do. Dude, I stayed home and mowed the lawn today. 6 hours of riding the lawnmower. It was a blast. And I'm not even done. But my health is good. Everything is doing good. Trying to think of something else. Nothing else is going on. It's no longer tournament season for kayak tournaments, which is great. It means I can go back to focusing. I do have a video I need to shoot tomorrow about how I rigged my XI3 on the front with being able to stow and deploy it while in the kayak, which is something I don't expect to get a whole lot of views, but there's a bunch of questions online I want to answer with using that video. So that's the main reason. So you'll see that one launched pretty quick. Jordan's working on my national championship videos. So there's still a whole bunch in the till that should pop up next week. I just got to light a fire up underneath this butt and get him working. So maybe I'll pay him a little bit eventually. Goodness. Steven Simpson says, I feel the pain. My lake has been turning over for a while now. It's a large lake. Tried your tip about the wacky kale hooks, and they've been gold for me. Thanks again. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, man. Like I said last week, I got schooled by 2 old guys fishing those dang things, and they're great wacky hooks. So, what's up? Do you ever fish Clark's Hill anymore? I don't. It's 3 hours away, and it's the opposite direction of the direction I normally go. I've got Chickamauga an hour and 29 minutes to my north. I've got Gunnersville an hour and 25 minutes to my west, and it's hard to leave those 2 lakes to go to Clark's Hill. So you can't blame me. Whoo, let's see. I just drank a lot of water, so I'm trying not to have too much reflux. I don't know what happens, but when I drink a whole bunch of water before these things, it just gets bad. Anyway, all right, so let's jump on some Q&A. So Josh Edmond says, my wife and I have picked up kayak fishing this year and really enjoy your channel. One of our favorites by far. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. Tips for Chickamauga in the morning out of Saudi. Grab a buzzbait, man. Grab a buzzbait and a frog. I haven't been to Chicken over a year, though, which is really bad. I need to get up there again. I've been focusing on Gunnersville because of the KBF National Championship, and I should have just been going to Chick. Oh, goodness. Jordan King. Seems like about every time I throw a spinnerbait, the line wraps around the spoons, which prevents the lure from working properly. Any tips to improve on this? You're probably using braid, which is one thing. If you're not using braid, it's still the solution is almost the same. If you're using braid, let out about 6 more inches of line out of the end of your rod before you make that cast, and then let it load up in the back. Don't make a whipping cast, just kind of a long, kind of like a Carolina rig, long a back cast, and then throw it up and then cast it forward. And what that does is it will prevent your spinnerbait from spinning all the time. Sometimes it'll still spin, but most of the time it'll prevent it from spinning. With fluorocarbon, you don't have to let out as much, and you can whip it a little bit more, but still make sure your rod loads up in the back. So what that does is as your spinnerbait is going backwards on your rod, it's going this way, and then all of a sudden you whip it, and it causes it to go backwards, and that's what causes the propeller, what I call the propeller action. So if you let it load up, that spinnerbait will turn around and then cast this way, and it won't happen. That's what you're trying to do. Is you're trying to get that spinnerbait to turn away from you on your back cast and not propeller out. And so you got to slow down your cast a little bit. So pro tip. Favorite chatterbait trailer is the 13 Fishing, the Jerk is what it's called. It's awesome. I got some other ones I use are the Zoom Fluke, not the Super Fluke, not the Super Fluke Junior. It's called the Fluke. So the Zoom Fluke causes a little erratic action in your bait, and then if I throw a paddle tail, it's usually a Rage Swimmer. So at about 3 3.25 inch Rage Swimmer is usually what I throw. So, what is the best college degree to get to pursue a fishing career? Dude, there's so many of them. It depends on what your passion is, really. I don't know why my hat's always crooked, but anyway. So your first thought's always, marine biologist, fisheries biologist, and stuff like that. But to be honest with you, unless you do it in the private sector, you're not going to make a whole lot of money doing it. Marketing is a good one, but a lot of people have marketing. It's pretty much you got to look at your passions and go with it that way if you're looking for a college degree. But another one is like what's that school? Savannah, the Savannah College of Art and Design has an industrial design degree that's really, really good. You can get out and get a job in a lure company or a tackle company, and be able to design lures and tackle and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different things you could do. Best thing to do is go and figure out what needs are for certain companies in the fishing industry. But as for a professional fisherman, just go fishing, dude. And you know, work harder than everybody else. So, oh goodness, poor Minnesota. It says lakes here in Minnesota are turning into ice, so fishing has died down. So I put away the fishing and broke out the hunting gear. I don't blame you, dude. I don't blame you. Give me a second. I'm gonna turn the fan on. I get all these lights going and stuff like that, and it just gets hot in here, so I gotta turn my ceiling fan on. All right. See if we can get this thing fired up and get rolling. I know I just clicked on it. Hello from Buffalo. Been using all your tips in the Buffalo Harbor and the Niagara River. I love that place. To catch some great largies and smallies. They have helped a ton. I really can't thank you enough. That's awesome, Kevin. I do a trip every May, except for this one because of COVID. But every May I do a media event where I fish the Niagara River and Lake Erie and all along there and fish, you know, for steelhead and whatever else bites. We take a bunch of guides out and stuff like that. So I was gonna have a get together this year if we would have had it. But if I get invited next year, which I probably will, then I'll be there and we'll do a good get together. I'd love to meet everybody from up in that area. I love the Buffalo or the Niagara River. Star Cook, hey Gene, I am not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, you used to work in radiology. Do you still feel the occasionally or totally away from working in the field? To be honest with you, for you guys that don't know, I was an X-ray tech for 20 years. I started in the Army. They trained me. I worked for them for 6 years. I got out, got a job at the Medical College of Georgia at a trauma center, and worked. My specialty was orthopedic surgery and trauma surgery, basically, just working in the operating room. But I did everything because there was only 4 people on my shift for a giant hospital. But anyway, I never hated that job a day. I always loved it. I loved working with people, I loved helping people and that kind of stuff. I loved the job and I felt like I was really good at it. I don't miss it at all. I really don't. I love what I'm doing. So no, I don't ever look back and say, man, I wish, but no, I don't miss it. But it's a worthwhile job. It really does help pay the bills while you're trying to do something crazy like start a YouTube channel. Always looking for your truck when I pass by outdoor or the country sports out. It's called the Country Sportsman. He says country outdoorsman. But anyway, it's in Rome. I actually drove by there today. I want to go pick up my daughter from piano lessons. but yeah, I haven't been there in a little while. What are good square bill crankbaits? My favorites are a couple. I've got the Scamp from 13 Fishing is a really good one if you like a loud one. And then when I want a quiet one and a smaller profile, it's the 1.5. It's the KVD 1.5 by Strike King are the ones I go to first. So, and I'm going to jump way ahead, guys. I'm going to skip a few questions. I'm sorry. I just hate getting so far behind that maybe the guy answering the questions is no longer online. Let's see. Ever fished the Defeated Creek in the Chattooga? No, I have not. Not in Chattooga, Tennessee. What would you throw after a cold front in a pond? Whew. It depends, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a moving bait just to see kind of what mood they're in, but I'm not going to expect much. So I might throw a top water, I might throw a spinner bait, something like that. I'm not going to expect to get a bite, and if I don't, after a few dozen casts, I may drag a little worm or a Ned rig or something like that. I always have a Ned rig tied on when I'm fishing small ponds, but I play around with the speed. I retrieve that too to see what kind of a mood the fish are in. So that usually is just I do the same thing, but I'm more quick to change when moving baits don't work after a cold front comes through. Hope you're doing well, Fluke. Why do you think all the pros left Quantum? I don't know. Quantum is owned by Zebco. Okay, so you got to understand the whole conglomerate and how it all works and everything else. But Zebco owns Quantum. Back in the day, and I'm not saying about this right now, but back in the day, there was a guy that was in charge of their marketing. He was an older guy, and he has long since retired. But this was in the very beginnings of social media marketing, and he did not like the internet. He didn't, from what I gathered from the meetings I sat in with him, he was not interested in advertising on the internet. And it put them about 10 years behind the curve. And so I don't know if it stems from that, but from my experience with Quantum and Zebco, that has a lot to do with why over a lot of years we haven't seen a whole lot from them. So I don't know why the pros left it. I just know that they have been behind in marketing for a long time, and hopefully they're working hard to get back up, but I don't know. So do you fish a lot of kayak tournaments? No, I don't. It's tempting. It really is tempting, Ron. I love fishing them, but I know that if I get serious about fishing a lot of them, that my YouTube channel and the videos are going to get greatly reduced because I get so focused on the tournament that I don't even want to even touch a camera. So it's a give and take. There's some really cool things happening this next year that I'm a part of that I can't talk about right now, but you'll find out here in the next few weeks that are kayak related. But yeah, I don't fish a lot of them. I fish the monthly ones in Georgia, and I may fish 2 national ones or 3 national ones during the year. So I did qualify for the BASS National Championship in that coincides with the Bassmasters Classic. So let's see. Fishing Joe, hey Fluke, any tips on what to do if the fish are being quiet and not biting? And I heard you are taking Dallin on a week fishing trip. Good friends with him. We're talking about it. His dad must be excited. Dallin's dad is my little brother. So, but yeah, we may go down to Louisiana and do some redfish fishing soon. I just have to clear it with my boss. So, but what do you do if the fish are being quiet and not biting? There's 2 options. Okay, and usually I'm gonna give you the option I usually don't pick first, and that is to slow way down and just drag something super slow on the bottom and around cover. But what I typically will do is find something I can fish very fast and very aggressive and get it into cover and try to beat the baits up against the cover. Something like a crankbait or a spinnerbait or something that's a moving bait that I can just bang hard up against cover, cause it to deflect and cause a reaction strike. And that's what you're basically trying to do. I've got a video that I made a couple years ago called How to Make Them Bite, and it covers that whole thing, but that's basically the gist of it. You really got to scare them into biting is what it is. So who just donated $5? Doug Stubbs, man, thanks for the $5, brother. I appreciate it. He says, hey, Gene, sent you an email, but this is just as good. I know the colors, but what is the clear JJs used for? The clear JJs is used for just the scent. Way back in, I think, the 80s, Bassmaster Magazine came out with an article, and this is how old JJ's is. And JJ Pollock, the owner, is he's an old retired police officer is what he is. Just a great dude. But anyway, so they did a study, and they used the different types of scents, and they put them in a big tank with a bunch of bass, and they studied and see how the bass reacted. And garlic scent was something that interested them more than any other scent at the time. Crawfish scent, stuff like that. They were attracted more to the garlic scent. So JJ got the idea of putting garlic scent in this dye that another guy made. Well, he ended up buying the company from the guy because the guy was really, really old and really couldn't do it anymore. So JJ bought the company from him. And still was, up until when he passed away, was great friends with him. But he added that to the dye, and JJ's Magic was born. But the clear is for the scent, just to cover up your human scent and stuff like that. And I really feel like that scent makes the bass hold on to it longer, and it almost pisses them off, is what I've gathered. So yeah, that's what the clear is used for. Thanks, Doug. Thanks for the $5. I appreciate it, man. All right, let me go back up. let's see. See what happens when somebody donates like $5 is I have this little time ticker, and if I don't get to it by the time that they by the time it goes away, I'll forget about it and I won't be able to comment or find their comment. So, or I can, but it's just more difficult. Elizabeth Webster, what college do you suggest to go to for a fishing team? Whew, man, there's a lot of private schools that offer full scholarships. Actually, not a lot, but there's a few. Bethel University is one. It's a good Christian university. There's, man, off the top of my head, SCAD doesn't have a team anymore. Their team went crazy and they all lost. Anyway, but Bethel University, I have to look at the other ones. I don't know. I'd have to have a list of me, but that's the one that pops into my head and they always have one of the best teams. So that'd be one to look at. But look for private colleges is what you need to do, because the public owned colleges like Auburn University in Alabama and stuff like that, it's still a club. There's no money in it. They don't put money into it. So you really almost have to be a rich kid to be able to fish it, from what I've gathered. So, and I could be totally wrong with that too. South Kakalaki Bassin, what's up, man? He says, any tips on dialing in a Concept C? Spent the money and it's harder to cast than any of my A's or Z's. Yes, it is. It's smoother. The brakes are smoother. Set the brake on 4 instead of 3. So open up the side plate, turn it, set the brake on 4, and then do the old tighten the cast control knob down on the right side and then start to loosen it until your bait just barely starts to fall, and that should be perfect. So, but yeah, especially the new A2s and the new C2s, their brakes are super smooth, and so it took me a little getting used to when I first got those. Somebody's ragging me about my fan being on. What are my favorite soft plastics? There are some I use a lot. I use a lot of Rage Tail, and I'm loyal to Rage Tail just because. Well, main reason is I've been friends with Steve Parks for years, but I also know how much love and time he put into those baits. So Rage Tail's one of them. Some of the new 13 stuff I really love. Some I'm not. It's not that I'm not a fan of. I just haven't built any confidence in them yet. Zoom baits, I use a lot of them, the big worms and the flukes and that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think of what other. Let me think. Missile baits, I use a lot of D-bombs. When I'm flipping, I use a lot of their stuff. I got their new worms that I can't remember the name of them, but the new worms that came out this year. I've been using a lot of them, but that's mostly it. What I'm trying to do is go through my old stock and not buy any new worms. I've got 20 years worth of collection of worms in my barn that I'm trying to use. So, hey Gene, this is Friday Night Lives. Are you always lives are always a blessing. I look forward to. Thanks, my guy. Thanks, J. Crow. Appreciate it. Sorry, man. I totally messed up your comment. Atlanta Clutch is asking about hook sets on a frog. He says, for frog hook sets, do you count 1, 2 Earnhardt? Oh, man. I don't count anymore, really. What I do is I bow to them. So I get the hook set and I go, whoop, bam, and I bow to them with a short rod, and I hardly ever miss a fish. So, all right. Let's see. Donald Higgins. All I have is a medium power 6'7" to 5'13" fishing rod. What would be best to throw with this rod? Could I actually snap it setting the hook with a Texas rig or jig? You probably couldn't snap it, but it probably wouldn't have the power to get a jig hook into the fish's mouth, into the tougher parts of the fish's mouth. You'd really have to get lucky. A Texas rig with a lighter wire hook, you could fish it. What you'll notice is on those heavier jigs and those 3/8 ounce and heavier Texas rig weights, on your back cast, you'll get a lot more flex, and it'll make your cast a little bit more difficult. That's what you'll notice. What I throw with a medium power 6-7 rod is I throw small spinner baits. I throw topwater baits like a spook, a walking bait. I'll throw crankbaits like square bills are really good on them. What else? Shaky heads, like heavier 1/4 ounce shaky heads, are really good. I fished a medium with shaky heads for years when they were a 1/4 ounce. Those are the ones that come off the top of my head. But there's a lot of things. But you got to realize the thicker the hook, like a jig hook, you're not going to have the power in that rod to set the hook and get that hook into the toughest part of the fish's mouth. So you'll lose a lot of fish. Bill Price, speaking of JJ's, I caught a fish on my 3rd cast on a green pumpkin jig with the claws dipped in methylate, which turns the claws orange, by the way. The fish threw up a crawdad in the live well. It was green with orange claws. That's awesome. That reminds me, I was fishing. I was fishing Leech Lake in Minnesota. I had one day to fish it. Never been on it before in my life. Had been paying attention to wind, so I kind of had an idea of where I wanted to go. And I was sitting at the dock, getting into my boat, and I looked down, and there were like crawfish bodies laying all over the bottom, and they were all green pumpkin with orange claws. And so I grabbed a Rage Craw and I dipped it in methylate, JJ's Magic. I caught 40 fish before lunch and 40 fish after lunch. Actually, me and the guy in the boat, because I had the owner or the president of, or vice president of Alumacraft shuttling other pro staffers up to me because I was the only one catching fish. Everybody else was walleye fishing and not catching anything. So pretty fun little trip, man. I love that lake, Leech Lake. It was awesome. Let's see. How do I set up an Abu Garcia Silver Max reel? Take the brakes all the way off. Make sure I'm telling you right. Take the brakes all the way off. Tighten your cast control knob down until your lure stops to fall, and then reel your lure up to about a couple inches below the tip and hold it up at a 10 o'clock position, and then loosen that cast control knob or hit the button, loosen the cast control knob until your lure just starts to slowly fall. Then turn your brakes on the left side back up halfway and you'll be set. Hey, Fluke, what techniques would you use when you are bank fishing on a pond that has limited space to fish? I don't think it really dictates what techniques I'll be fishing. I have a few baits or a few things that I always throw, a Texas rig, and like I said earlier, a Ned rig and that kind of stuff. But I try not to let that kind of, the limitations of bank fishing limit what I'm fishing or the kind of baits I use. I try to use what the bass want. But usually I'm gonna throw a Texas rig or a Ned rig, even if I've got no trees or anything else around. Do you collect any antique baits or gear? I do not. I'm always on the lookout for them because I've got buddies who collect them, but I don't dare get into that rabbit hole. Goodness gracious. Medium rod can run track. Okay, somebody's helping the guy with a medium rod question. Sorry about that. Oh, David Carlson again. Hey, Gene, I was wondering what are some of the tips you have for starting a high school. What are some of the tips you have for starting a high school fishing club? My school has never had anything like that. Go to either BAS's website about high school fishing or FLW's website about high school fishing and read it. And if you need to, call them and ask them about it because they are excited about signing teams up. But if you get them in your corner, which is real easy, it's just a matter of filling out the paperwork and getting them, getting yourself educated. Then you can go and approach your principal. You've got to have a teacher that is willing to be the coach, and then you can roll with it. So that's the best way to do it. That's what we're in the middle of doing right now at my high school. We finally got the state on board and kind of bypassed the principal by doing that. He's more on board now because of that. So, and it's been a long process, 3 years of process for us. So it was kind of a battle. What's up, Fluke? Any tips for small ponds where the bass are used to being fed human food? I have no clue, dude. Never had that situation. That's weird. Being fed human food. Somebody's got some pets, huh? Hey, Gene, have you mastered the Senko fishing yet? Nope. Goodness. I probably could go out and catch fish on a Senko if I wanted to. I just don't ever want to. Let's see. What did you say that did is I don't understand. I would like to get a bottle of that. It's called JJ's Magic. If I think that's what your question is, Desmond. It's called JJ's Magic. You can find it at Tackle Warehouse. I've got a bunch of videos about it. It is kind of you have to keep the bottle upright. I've got a container that keeps my bottles in it because if you lay it on its side and it starts to warm up, it pressurizes and starts to leak out. So you kind of keep it on its side. I keep it in a little plastic locking Tupperware container. And it's great stuff. It's just you gotta know how to use it or know how to store it mainly. So what's your thoughts on small swivels and O-rings on the trebles for lipless baits? Small swivels and O-rings on trebles for lipless baits. I always have O-rings on the lipless baits. I've never used swivels. Yeah, I'd have to look at that. I'd see a picture of that. That's crazy sounding. After a rain in creek mouth and water is stained, should you move out to main channel and cleaner water? Yes, is what you do, because those bass are typically used to that clear water. And as the rain pushes through and as the rainwater pushes through and muddies things up, they're going to kind of move into the clear water, try to find the clearest water they can in that area. But it'll quickly, as that muddy water moves out to the main lake, back up, the creek will clear up and you got to get back up in there and fish. Let's see. Josh, I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. It's got a lot of letters and I don't, no, sorry, man. I'm not going to butcher your name. He says, are we going to see any new gear in the website soon? Hopefully soon. The goal was to sell as much of the stuff off the website as I could before we start ordering new stuff, because I still have to pay for that stuff. So it's kind of it's a give and take. The hoodies should be available. I need to look and see what we have. I think we are missing a couple of sizes, but the hoodies are absolutely awesome. So maybe I can get some new hoodies made. But it's going to have to be this and that. I went into a lot of debt for that website, and so I'm trying to pay it off before I get too much in the hole with apparel and stuff like that. Because you guys aren't buying a lot of apparel, and I understand. It's just I want to make sure that there's at least some stuff in there. So yeah, maybe there's going to be some new stuff. I'd like to see some new T-shirts, really. So let's see. Gene, I'd like to start a high school team, but I don't have a bass boat and know anyone with one. Any tips? Whoo! The only thing that pops in my mind is try to contact the local bass club and see if they've got anybody that's willing to donate their time, because they're not going to donate their boat, but to donate their time and be a captain or something like that. That's hard, dude. You need to at least have a couple of dads in the club that have a boat. You start the team, and then you become a teammate with a guy on the boat whose dad has a boat. So, what's my go-to when the bite is tough? Usually either a shaky head or a Ned rig. Kathy Matheny, what's going on, girl? She says Academy Sports also carries JJ's. I didn't know that. That's awesome. Hey, Fluke, I am a young angler and have some money I can use on a new reel, and I'm wondering if you think the SLX would be good. They are $100 and they have good reviews. I haven't used an SLX in a lot of years, so I would trust the reviews. and give it a try, dude. Especially for $100, that's not bad. 13 has a reel called the Origin C that's $100. It's a really good reel. It's one of those you can beat up. My son Jordan uses one every day, so that's a pretty good reel for $100 as well. But yeah, if the reviews are good on the SLX, go with it, brother. All right, see if I got any water in one of my Yetis. Nope, I'm out of water. Let's see. Andy Leonard, what's going on, man? He said, have you ever used the BFS Bait Finesse System bait caster reel? I have not. Fluke Master, did you ever get a code for 13 Fishing or Tackle Warehouse? I don't have a discount code for either of those. I do have an affiliate code. It's in all my latest videos. What happens is you guys go to Tackle Warehouse, and whatever you buy at Tackle Warehouse, I get a small percentage of it, but for referring you to Tackle Warehouse. And that's a lot of how Matt and Tim make their money at Tactical Bassin. I make a little bit of money. It actually helps to replace camera gear and things like that over the year. And so, but yeah, that's all I have. I don't have any discount codes. There's not a whole lot of discount codes this year for some reason. So Tyler Sexton, brother, thanks for the $25. Man, you are unreal. Gosh almighty. That's crazy. Thanks, man. I appreciate $25, man. He said, you guys that donate are awesome. You don't have to. You really don't. But it's pretty cool to have guys that are willing to do that. He said, what's up, Fluke? Long time no see. 2-day classic tomorrow on Watts Bar. What's your go-to rain gear? Honestly, my go-to rain gear is the NRS Champion series. It's bibs and it's a parka or a rain jacket. It's really, really good. Good sealed pockets and that kind of stuff. And then a pair of Boundary boots to go with it. They're neoprene. They keep your feet warm, and they're pretty waterproof. So, but yeah, the Champion gear from NRS is what I use for rain gear, and love it. It is great, and it's thin. You need that in the South because it doesn't get cold very much. But you get a one size larger. You can put you can put layers underneath and throw that over top. But it's thin, so it's good in the summertime. Best baits for spotted bass. Baits that move fast. Spotted bass are really aggressive most of the time. The guy that taught me how to fish for spotted bass is the guy that makes the bull shad swim baits, Mike Buca. He taught me that you couldn't fish too fast for spotted bass. So we threw jerk baits super quick, spinner baits just under the surface as fast as you could reel them. Lipless crankbait, same thing, as fast as you could reel them. And you'd catch them, and you just covered water is what you did. So that's what I do for spotted bass. I rarely ever throw a shaky head unless they're under docks. Other than that, I'm always moving and throwing a moving bait. So let's see. Ever fished Lake Tobo in Macon, Georgia? I've fished Juliet for years and years. I've never heard of Tobo in Macon. I wonder if it's a newer lake. So buy a new boat with less horsepower, or buy any older boat with more horsepower but probably less reliability. I've always said you can't catch a fish going 60 miles an hour. Kind of hard to do that. If it's just for you to go putt around and go fish and stuff like that, get the new boat with less horsepower. Typical, you can expect 35 to 40 miles an hour out of a 90 horse boat or 90 horsepower motor on an 18-foot aluminum boat, that kind of stuff. But really, if it's all about you just getting out going fishing, just get one that you can afford. And I would suggest a new boat. It really does, because you get warranty and you get all kinds of other stuff with it that really help you out along the way. Because some things break. They're a boat. What does boat stand for? Break out another 1,000. So it's good to have them under warranty. Stephen Guthrie, best reel. My best reel Fluke sold to me. Yes, I did. My wife sold it to you. I didn't. She gets rid of my stuff for me. So Hey, Fluke, have you ever fished Buck's Pocket area of Lake Gunnersville? I did about a month ago for about 2 hours, and it wasn't any good, so I pulled out of there. But yeah, it's beautiful back in there. I bet you it's good right now, though. I don't know why I'm yawning. I don't know why I'm not tired. But anyway, yeah, I bet it's really good now. The bass are probably pushed way back in there. What's the best approach to find suspended bass on structure? I'll give you 3 baits: an underspin, a deep diving crankbait, and what I do is I'll throw over top of the structure or the cover, and I'll reel down through the fish and try to get one to bite it as it's coming down through them. And then the other one is a flutter spoon, and I don't let it go all the way down to the deep. I was doing this the other day. That's why I'm telling you this. I had a rock pile in 20 feet of water I was fishing, and I was letting it. I knew the fish were 10 feet deep, so I was throwing it out, letting it flutter down to about 15 feet, and then jerking it back up and letting it flutter back down. You want to spook them. You want to scare them as much as you can. But that underspin really works well when they suspend and they're active. So, what are your thoughts on baits for the winter? Whew, you're going to make me think about something I haven't wanted to think about. I hate winter fishing, but it's a good thing. It's a bad thing. You catch giant fish. One that a lot of people use that I don't is an A rig or an Alabama rig. But my favorite winter baits are a spoon, a jig with no action on the trailer, but I have rattles on them. What else do I like to throw? I like to throw an underspin. And that's about it. Those are the three that come to my mind right now. But typically a spoon up, underneath the boat or cast it out and let it flutter down are really good in the wintertime for me. And then I'll drag a jig, but just because jigs work all winter long and I love to catch fish on them. So what's my all-time favorite bait? I would have to say a rage bug is my all-time favorite soft plastic. All-time favorite fish type of bait to fish would be a topwater, anything topwater. So let's see. Everybody's boat break out another 1,000. Michael Moon says, what's a boat? A hole in the water that you throw your money into. That's true. And the bigger the boat, the bigger the hole, dude. And it takes up a lot of money. What's funny with a boat is even if it sits and you don't use it, you still have to get it worked on when you're ready to use it. So it's best to get out and use your boat as much as you can. You guys that are needing to winterize your boat, I am so sorry. Really. Winterizing in the South means when you get the boat up the ramp, you want to drop the motor down all the way to let the water drain out of the lower unit. Make sure you pull your plug in your boat and stuff like that. Get all the water drain out just in case it gets below freezing that night, so you can go fishing the next day. So that's winterizing the boat Southern style. Let's see. What baits do you use when the bites are tough? I just answered that one. Trying to find one I haven't used. Blade bait for winter. That's a good one, Stephen. I didn't think about that one. I haven't had a whole lot of success recently on a blade bait, but I have the box in my boat right now just because of that. I really want to get good at a blade bait, and I got to figure out what conditions and things like that it works the best in. I know it up here. I just got to apply it and get it, and start to actually catch fish on it. So what's my favorite football jig? I designed a jig, not the head itself, but the colors. There's a Fluke Master series of jigs from Seabird Outdoors. I don't make a dime off of it. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but he's still, as far as I know, he's still got them on the website. I fish them all the time, but it's called the Gridiron Jig. And if you look in the Fluke Master series, you'll see all my different colors that I use, and that's all I use, are just those colors. And so, but definitely the Gridiron is a great one. The shape of the head is really good. The hook stands up off the ground a little bit, so when the bass pins the bait down, a lot of times they'll just crush down on the bait when it's on the bottom. The hook is in their mouth. It's not laying on the ground. They don't flatten the hook out on the ground. It's in their mouth, and you can almost guarantee a good hook set. So Somebody just said something. After last weekend, I didn't think you would mention Alabama. I'm a realist when it comes to a Georgia fan. That game went exactly the way I knew it was going to go. And if we can survive the first 2 minutes of the fourth quarter and keep a lead, I think we can beat Alabama. We have yet to be able to do that. So we have to keep the lead through the first 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. Alabama's just too good in the fourth quarter. So, hey, Gene, I need to get you out of Georgia and up here to Southeast Tennessee on Lake Ocoee. I was there a couple years ago. To teach me some things on this super clear water. Tough lake for everyone that I've talked to here locally. I know the guys that I fished it with, and the day we went and fished it, we threw big swim baits and got a lot of giant spots to follow us. But yeah, you just got to go either really big or and natural looking like big swim baits, or shaky head drop shot, small stuff with light line and things and stuff like that, and then make very, very long casts. You don't want to get your shadow or anything over top of those fish. You really want to make a real long cast into them. So, is a jack plate worth its money? A hydraulic jack plate is worth its money. A jack plate that you have to get out and crank and throw a wrench to is not worth the money. So I love my hydraulic jack plate. Absolutely. Josh, man, thanks for the $5, brother. He says, any winter kayak fishing gear for a new angler looking to not drop a ton of cash, want to be safe, but also can't buy a $1,000 system this year. I'm going to try to say this, but I want you to understand safety. Wintertime is the scariest time to kayak fish because if you go in the water, you can quickly disappear. And so I really, really worry about that kind of stuff. If you get to the point where you don't feel safe, get your butt out of the water and go home. But the biggest thing is to stay dry. So if you've got a boat that's wet, if you've got a sit on top that doesn't have a raised seat and stuff like that, and your butt's going to get wet, you've got to have some rain gear or a pair of waders. If you have a pair of cheap waders, you're going to want to put a belt around those waders. So if you do fall in, they don't fill up with water and become an anchor. And so there's a lot of things, but the biggest thing is do not wear the coveralls you would wear deer hunting because they absorb water really fast and they also become an anchor and it's impossible to get warm with them once they're wet. So rain gear, good warm gear underneath there, but I always wear waterproof pants when I'm fishing in the wintertime, no matter what. So that's one of the things I worry about. But man, I made a video last year about it. It is no joke. You can be gone in a very, very quick hurry in the wintertime out of a kayak. So I am hesitant to go in my own kayak when water temperature gets, down into the low 50s and the 40s and lower. So no jerkbait in the winter. I really don't have a lot of confidence in a jerkbait until pre-spawn, until the water starts to warm back up. And so the jerkbait really doesn't come into play until that for me. So I've had good luck on a lot of cool things. I did a video a long time ago with Mike Buca about the floating fly, which was a really, really cool thing to fish. Just is a lot to get and set up for it. So I haven't fished it since, but we caught some big fish doing it. So, Minnesota fisherman. Here we go. Winterizing, putting my boat into storage tomorrow. Looking forward to hard water fishing. Oh, darn, man. I'm sorry. I don't understand because our season lasts all the time, 365 days. Winterizing I'd lose my mind. And plus I don't like to ice fish. I'll do it. It's a lot of fun when I'm catching, but I haven't caught a whole lot when I was ice fishing. So when frog fishing in a kayak, is it better to set the hook standing up or sitting down? Does it matter? It doesn't matter really. It's easier for me because I use a short rod and I like to walk with my rod low. It's easier for me to stand up and do it. But the biggest thing is just make sure you're fishing. Sorry, how can I put this? I like to fish with my rod out of position. In other words, I don't want to be ready for a hook set. I want to be not ready for a hook set. So it gives me that extra second or so for the bass to get the frog. So even if I'm sitting down, I'm going to have that rod low and off to my side. So when he bites, I have to go like this lean forward and then set the hook back. And it causes me to give him another second or so for that. So anyway, I don't think it matters though. Really, it doesn't. You just got to set the hook hard. And for me, it's easier to set the hook hard when I'm standing up. So, but I can do it when I'm sitting down too. Let's see. Yeah, Hog Jaws was talking about fishing Guntersville. He says, I turtled on Lake Guntersville last February. Absolutely no question. My PFD saved my life. That is so true. We had a guy at the KBF National Championship the last time it was at Kentucky Lake during practice, got his propeller from his Jackson kayak pedal drive, got it stuck in some fishing line that was around a log underwater, and he was in the river current, and it tossed him out. He couldn't get back to his kayak, and his buddy was a mile away. So don't fish alone either is another thing I would tell you. But and his buddy barely got to him in time to save his life. It was nuts, and he had his PFD on. If it wasn't for his PFD, his head would have gone under. He'd have been done. So, but yeah, dude, I don't know. It just all depends. If I don't feel safe, I don't go. So Kathy Matheny gives you another a good advice that I always do. Always carry a dry bag for a change of clothes and a towel. Every yak brand can and has flipped. Be prepared. Very, very true. Another thing I keep in my dry bag is some way to start a fire, and it ain't rubbing two sticks together. Have yourself a lighter and some stuff that'll burn in there, so you can quickly start a fire. And so, but yeah, that dry bag can save your life too. I've had to use mine in my big boat. So definitely. All right. K&L the Gamers. He said, what's up, man? I haven't seen you here yet. That's awesome. If you're new, welcome. Bass tournament tomorrow on the Ohio River. Any tips on catching spotted bass? I don't know what the water temps are right now, but for spotted bass, for me, I always think really aggressive, just because they are a very aggressive fish. They'll come from a long ways away to hit your bait. If the water clarity is real clear, if they can see it, they're gonna hit it. They're more sight feeders than they are sound feeders, and so you want to have something that's flashy, something that moves quick, like a spinner bait or a jerk bait or something. A lipless crankbait would be really good, or a chatterbait. But definitely, and I don't know what the weather conditions have been or anything else, but that's what I would do with spotted bass. Is I kind of think they're going to want to see my bait, and they're going to want to react to it as it moves fast, and it gets tried, and they don't want it to get away from them. So, goodness. Let's see. I grew up down south when the water gets solid in Illinois. I find a new hobby until spring. That's man, my introduction to ice fishing. I went on a media event with 13 Fishing, and they had hired an outfit up in Lake of the Woods, and we sat in wooden boxes for 2 days and stared at toilet holes. Is basically, anybody ever removed a toilet from the bathroom to fix it or anything else like that? There's a hole left in the ground, in the floor right there, and it's about that big around. That's what I did for 2 days straight. I sat in a wooden box and stared at a daggum toilet hole trying to catch fish out of it, and I caught 2 fish about this long, and I was done. I was so out of my mind. You thought I'd been drinking. Everybody else was drinking. I don't drink. And so you'd have thought I'd been drinking. I was so out of my mind. So the third day, they threw me on a snowmobile, and we took off and went into Canada. Got permission to go into Canada. We went up, and we actually started searching for the fish, drilling holes, dropping fish finders, locating the fish, and then started catching them. That's my way of ice fishing, dude. I love that because that's right up my alley. I love the hunt. And so being able to do that would be pretty cool. Doug Stubbs, man, thanks for the $25. I just saw my wife, so I know it's going to be good. He says, shh, my wife is listening. For the apparel, my wife won't let me buy and can't tell Tyler out. Can't let Tyler outdo me. I was looking for the affiliate codes. Dude, don't listen to fishing stuff while your wife's there. That's the bad thing, brother. Thanks for the $25, man. I appreciate it. Oh man. South Carolina fishing is hard. Any tips? Stay super shallow right now in South Carolina, especially after this rain moves through tomorrow or the next day, probably the next day for you guys. But go really, really shallow. You may be going through the same situation I'm going through. Your lakes may be starting to turn over, and the water quality isn't really good right now. And the bass kind of getting a funk for about 3 or 4 days, two to 4 days. And so you just start fishing really shallow and covering water with a buzz bait or a spinner bait or a crankbait or something moving until you start getting bit, and then slow down. So that's weird. John Choi says, I heard some people put frog lures in boiling water to make it softer. Is that true? I've heard it. I don't believe it, just because it's got to cool off, and when they cool off, it's just going to go back to the way it was before. So I don't know. There are some really good soft frogs out there. I know the Booyah Pad Crasher is a real soft frog. The only problem is it doesn't last very long. You catch a bunch of fish on it, it's done. But it is a soft frog. So I've never worried about it. I've never had an issue. So is a high dollar depth finder worth its money? Any depth finder is worth its money if the person that has it knows how to read it, or is willing to learn how to read it. And so a high dollar depth finder, this is the way I usually talk about it. Basically, what you need, if you're willing to spend the money, what you need is you need at least mapping with a GPS, regular sonar, and down imaging, and that'll help you a long ways. And you can get by with a $400 system, a $300 system, stuff like that. But when you get into side scan, in order to see all the detail that you need to see or that you want to see, you've got to get the biggest screen that you can afford. Okay, I have 9-inch screens on my back, the back console of my boat, and I have a 12-inch up front. On my kayak, I have a 9-inch. And so it's because I use side scan. And if I didn't use side scan, I'd have a lot smaller screen. So that's the biggest thing. And then you're going to spend the money on it because they're not cheap. Quinlan, I have not fished Lake Havasu in Arizona. So, all right. I'm going to get a couple more questions, but guys, remember the giveaway. If you go to my website and buy a $5 sticker, stick it on something, take a picture of it, put it on Instagram, hashtag StuckOnFluke, and then tag me in the picture, and it enters you into a drawing at the end of each month to win a $50 gift card to my website and a $50 gift card from Tackle Warehouse. And then in the spring, I take all the winners, throw them into a hat, pick one winner, and I go to your house and pick you up, and we go fishing for a couple of days. So anyway, go ahead and join. That's how you join it that way. Just basically just go to the website and buy a sticker. It's real easy. And what I'm trying to do is drive people to my website. While you're there, pick up a shirt or something like that. You don't have to, but it helps me to get rid of that stock so I can restock my stuff this next year. So it'd be awesome. The hoodies are awesome, by the way. Fluke, have you ever used a dissolved oxygen meter to find fish? That's actually, buddy, that's a funny question, because I ran into the local biologist. The lake I fish right down the road is a public fishing area, and they have, they have full-time staff and that kind of stuff, but they have a biologist that was there, and I talked to him. He said, and I said, you know what? I said, it's weird. I'm finding the fish a lot deeper than they should be right now. I'm finding the one lake, I find the fish between 10 and 12 feet, and then the other lake was between 8 and 10 feet. And I was like, dude, they're not supposed to be there. They're supposed to be up shallow. And the way I found them was by going out with my fish finder and getting an average depth of where the balls of bait are. And that's the average depth, was where those balls of bait were. And he says, yeah, he says, I dropped a a DO meter down there yesterday, and that's the depth the best oxygen was. And so it will help you, but you can do that just with a fish finder, just by getting an average depth of where the bait is. And then you can know where that DO, that best oxygen is. But it is a good way to do it. Those things are just way too expensive for what you're going to use them for. So, Stan R6, man, thanks for the $5. It says, hey, I fish tournaments every week. What state are you in? And best tips, baits for heavy hydrilla. I'm in Georgia. I fish Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida mostly. I do travel outside of those, but that's usually where I spend most of my time. Best tips and bait for hydrilla, heavy hydrilla. Frog on top. If it hasn't hit the surface yet, don't underestimate the power of a buzzbait. If it has topped out and starts to mat out, then a punch bait. So go to my website and or go to my YouTube channel, look up punch rig, and should have 2 videos on how to punch and how to rig that up. But it's a heavy tungsten weight with a bait behind it that you punch down into the grass, let it sink down to the bottom, hop it a few times, and then you pull it back out and you punch another hole and that kind of stuff. And it's usually along the edge of the hydrilla. But hydrilla is one of my favorite things to fish. In the summertime, it's got the best oxygen levels for the fish. And then in the wintertime, it tops out and mats out. And the underside is clear and real easy for the bass to move around in. So you can find a lot of really big bait. So Landon, I have never fished Kerr Lake in Virginia. And let me grab one more. There's Michael Moon. Mike was one of the winners of Stuck on Fluke, matter of fact. He was the first winner. Yeah, here's the hashtag. Stuck on Fluke is what it is. And that's my website. I always forget I have those banners all set up because I'm a dummy. But anyway, guys, let me grab one more question. 55-degree water, only green vegetation is lily pads. 55-degree water. You want to fish the outside edge of those lily pads until the sun gets up. And then when the sun gets up really high, they're going to tuck in under those lily pads. And my favorite thing to fish in pads is actually a floating worm. So a worm without salt is what it is. I throw it weightless and I just work it through the lily pads. You're going to lose a lot of fish in pads no matter what you fish, but that's what I love to do anyway. So, Stan, man, thanks for another $5. Okay, I usually use a Texas rig and a chatterbait for hydrilla edges. I'm in Florida and they don't spray for the hydrilla. If you're in Florida, there's 2 color soft plastics. I always tell people down in Florida, especially when you're new, Junebug and black and blue are the 2 soft plastic colors that you want to use. A good thing down in Florida is you get a Senko, rig it weightless, and then throw it out, let it hit on top of the hydrilla, and then drag it off that edge or drag it along the edge. But you really want to fish it slow. You need to either do it weightless or put like an 1/8 ounce weight on it. So I've got a couple of videos about fishing in the grass, but none from down in Florida. I guess I may have to do that when I go down there this next spring. That'd be cool. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off of here. We're about 3 minutes longer than I normally run, but I appreciate everybody who donated. Thanks for all the questions. I'm sorry I didn't get to them all. Got to as many as I could. But like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water. Go ahead and catch some fish and have a great day. We'll see you.